demonstration, we'll take a look at how you can create a basic network diagram with Cisco's Packet Tracer so that you can practice configuring your Cisco routers and switches. You'll notice here that I've completed my installation of Cisco Packet Tracer, so I have a shortcut on the desktop, Cisco Packet Tracer. So I double click on the shortcut to launch the Packet Tracer tool. The tool is launched here. Let me just maximize the window. And the first thing that we do is we start creating a network diagram. You'll notice down bottom we do have a kind of a toolbox of different types of devices. So we do have routers and switches. You've got wireless clients. There's all kinds of different types of devices here. So I'm going to start by adding a couple routers. So I make sure that the routers node is selected, and then we'll see a couple different model routers that we can use. I'm going to build a network diagram, a very simple diagram using two 2800 series routers. So I'm going to drop those into the diagram. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to join those routers to switches. So I'm going to go to my switches category here. I'm going to grab the 2960 switch and the 2960 switch. So I'm going to create two LANs that are connected by a WAN link. So I'll move that over there, move that over there. Next thing I want to do is start connecting with some cables. So I'm going to come over here, the connections, the lightning bolt is your different types of cables. So when you choose connections, over to the right here, we have different types of connections. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get a straight through cable. So I'm hovering over these icons, and I'm not quite sure if you can see it there, but in the bottom status bar over to the right, you can see they're telling me what type of cable it is. So there's a console cable, there's a straight through cable, then we have a crossover cable, which is the dashed lines, and then there's fiber cabling, which is the kind of yellowish line, I guess we'll call it. So I'll go with the straight through cable. So I click on the straight through cable, and then what you do is you left click on the device, and then you choose the port on the device. So I'm going to connect Fast Ethernet 0/0 on the router, and then I left click on the switch, and I'll see all the ports on the switch. So I connect to Fast Ethernet on the switch itself. So I'll do the same thing for the other side of the network. So I click on the router, choose the Fast Ethernet port, click on the switch, choose the Fast Ethernet port. Now that I've done that, now what I want to do is I want to connect the routers using a serial link. So I want to simulate a serial link with a back-to-back serial cable. So the first thing I got to do is I do have to verify the ports on the router itself. So if I double click on the router, and this is what's cool about the simulator, is it kind of gives you a visual of the back of the router and the different ports that exist. Now you can zoom in and out. There's a zoom in here so you can see it better. So notice that there is a power switch and there's a green light there. So that's telling you that the device is on. And what's kind of cool is they actually don't let you add ports to the device while it's on, because in real life you'd have to turn the device off. But I can see there's the Fast Ethernet ports, right? But notice that I don't have any serial ports on this device. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here and I'm going to grab one of these serial ports. I think I'll go with the WIC2T. And what you do is you drag it in. Now keep in mind, I haven't powered this off, so it should give me an error. It says, sorry, you can't add a module when the power is on. So I've got to power off the device, and then I'll add my WIC2T into the slot there. So now that I've done that, now I've got serial ports that I can use. So now what I'm going to do is power on the device, and then close that down. Now I need to do the same thing with the other router. I double click on it. First thing I'm going to have to do is power it off, then grab my modules, and they have all kinds of different types of modules which have different interfaces on them. I'll grab the same type of module. I'll drop that in there, and then I'll close that. Oh, powered on, and then I'll close that down. So now that I've got serial ports on the devices, now I can connect those devices with I'll go with a back-to-back serial cable, so DCE, DTE. So I'll click on the DCE, And I'll make the left-hand side here my DCEN. So I'll do serial 0/2/0 connecting to serial /2/0. I could use different ports, but I happen to put the module in the same slot. So now I've got all my cables in place for these devices. So the next thing that I want to be able to do is I want to be able to configure the device. And you can configure the device by just clicking on it with your left mouse button. It brings up the graphical interface, but notice that that's showing us the physical appearance of the device. You can go to config, which is kind of a graphical dialog box for you to configure a lot of the settings on the device, which is a great way if you already know all the commands that you want to use, but you don't want to type them just to get the basic configuration. Then you can go and just go through the dialog box. So I can change the name of the router if I wanted to here. But if you want to go to the command line interface, you go to the CLI tab here, and you'll notice here it's starting out, the router has been booted up. So I'm going to hit enter. Notice that I'm at my prompt. I can maximize this window if I wanted to, but I type enable, config term, and notice that I'm configuring the device, right? Which is kind of cool. So in this demonstration, you saw how to create a basic network diagram to allow you to practice your configuration of routers and switches.